So this is the Sony ULT Field 5, and over the last few years, Sony has just been fixing and improving everything. And the Sony ULT Field 5 has some major improvements over both the Sony XG300, which was okay, and the Sony XB43, which was a community favorite back in the day. So today we're going to check out the Sony ULT Field 5, and I'm going to show you why it's definitely worth upgrading and why the Sony ULT Field 5 is actually a very solid pickup for summer 2025. We're going to pricing. In an environment where everything is just going up, the Sony ULT Field 5 actually has a price reduction and it retails for $330. Not bad at all, because for comparison's sake, both the Sony XG300 and the XB43 had a retail price of $350 when they first came out. Nonetheless, if you want to pick this speaker up, it'll be linked down below, or you can always press on the YouTube shopping button, and if you want to further support the channel, then you can always pick up some merch. So first, there's the design of this speaker. It's very simple, it's just a really big rectangle, but more importantly, this speaker is a little larger and it's a little heavier than both the XG300 and XB43. However, this speaker is still a great option to consider if you're looking for something durable and portable, because it has a mostly fabric wrap body, so it's going to be able to stand up to constant abuse from bumps and scrapes, and it's rocking an IP67 rating, so water is not going to be an issue for this speaker. But more importantly, the ULT Field 5 now comes included with a shoulder strap, and I just want to say, I really like the look of this embroidered shoulder strap. And attaching the shoulder strap to your speaker is very easy. The attachment points are cleverly hidden, so if you don't want the shoulder strap attached, then you can always have a clean look. And even when the shoulder strap is attached, you still manage to get a clean look. But overall, the shoulder strap on the ULT Field 5 is a big deal, because it just makes it super easy to carry this speaker around, and the shoulder strap just works better and looks better than the carrying handle found on the XG300. And then there's the XB43, which just didn't have either option. But another thing that I do want to point out about this speaker, durability-wise, is that the ports on these speakers are covered. And I feel that this is worth mentioning, because a lot of other speakers out there which are meant to be durable are now keeping their ports exposed. But the problem with this is, let's say you were to take your speaker to the beach, lake, or pool, and it gets wet. Before you can actually charge it back up, you have to wait for the ports to dry. Whereas that's just something that you don't have to worry about with the ULT Field 5, because the ports are covered. Now, I know that this is a very niche scenario, but this is something that I've had to deal with in the past, and this is also a cost-cutting measure that other companies are doing. But another upgrade on the Sony ULT Field 5 is the light feature. Now, I was never the biggest fan on the light feature on the Sony XG300 because it was so tucked away in the passive radiator. So it was just super hard to see, so I just felt that it wasn't worth it. Whereas with the ULT Field 5, this light feature now extends past the passive radiator, so you can now see it from the front and back, and this light feature also floods the table that it's on. So now it's actually worth using the light feature on the ULT Field 5, and the color changing effects on the ULT Field 5 are a lot more dynamic than the light color changing effect on the XG300. However, I will admit that I still prefer the light feature on the XB43 because the drivers are illuminated as well, but the ULT Field 5 is a good middle ground, and I wouldn't be surprised to see illuminated drivers on the future ULT Field 5 too. Nonetheless, I really like the improvements on the light feature on the ULT Field 5, and I now think that it is worth using. However, if you did decide to use this light feature, that is going to take its toll on the battery life. Now, when it comes to battery life, the ULT Field 5 has an advertised battery life of 25 hours. However, this advertised battery life of 25 hours is with the light feature turned off, but with the ULT feature turned on, which is good because you're going to get more bass and more sound pressure out of this speaker. And with the light feature turned on, and with the ULT feature turned on, and at max volume, Sony promises 2.5 hours of playback time, which is actually really good because max volume on the speaker is a lot louder than max volume on both the XG300 and XB43. And if you were to use this speaker with this light feature turned off, then you'll be able to extend its battery life that way. But real-world use with this speaker playing at 80% volume and with the light feature turned off and with ULT 2, for me, the speaker is going to be good for around 12 hours of playback time. And a real-world use, I'm using the speaker with the light feature turned off, because if you were to take it to the beach, then you'll probably just use it with the light feature turned off. And again, 80% volume on the ULT Field 5 is louder than 80% volume on both the XG300 and XB43. And then there are the fast charging numbers on this speaker. If you were to charge the speaker up for 10 minutes from a dead battery, you're going to get 100 minutes of playback time. And like I mentioned earlier, this speaker charges via a USB-C port, as it should. But the really cool thing is that you can also now use this USB-C port to charge your own devices. And this is something that you can't do with the USB-C ports on these older speakers. However, you can't use this USB-C port as a wired connection, but the ULT Field 5 still has an audio jack. The only thing that I don't like about the ULT Field 5 is that it doesn't come included with a complete charging cable. It just comes included with a USB-C to USB-C cable, so you're still going to have to use your own wall adapter, or more realistically, you could just use your phone's charger. But when it comes to overall connectivity, the ULT Field 5 can be connected to two devices at the same time, so you and a friend can both be DJ. Latency is not an issue for this speaker, so you can use it to watch the videos with on your phone. And when it comes to audio codecs, it has support for SBC, AAC, and LDAC, which is Sony's own in-house high-res audio codec. Just keep in mind that if you do want to use LDAC, you do have to be an Android user, because iPhones top out at AAC. And also, if you do use LDAC, that is going to take an additional toll on the battery life. But wait, if you want to further support the channel, then check out our partners over at Factor. Factor ships chef-cooked meals right to your door, which are genuinely very tasty, they're healthy, and they're super easy to prepare, and cleanup is super easy as well. You can choose from 40 different meals a week, and you can sort through them by preferences or dietary needs. Personally, I'm a fan of the Tex-Mex beef bowl. It's hearty and spicy. The chimichurri chicken breast is super tasty and macro-friendly, and the honey butter chicken breast with mashed potatoes are perfect for when you need something warm and comfy. So click on our link down below and get 50% off on your first order, and you're gonna get free shipping for life, and you're gonna get 2 free add-ons for life as well. I actually went with the wellness shots. Factor makes it very easy to eat good, save money, and save time. But with all that out of the way, let's talk about sound. Regarding speaker setup, both the XB43 and XG300 have dual front-firing woofers, dual front-firing tweeters, and dual passive radiators that shoot out the sides. Whereas with the ULT Field 5, it has a single front-firing woofer, dual front-firing tweeters, and dual passive radiators that shoot out the sides. And through Sony's app, you can adjust the EQ of this speaker. And more importantly, Sony is now consolidating their apps, thank goodness. So through the Sony Sound Connect app, which is the same app that you would use for your headphones, you can adjust the EQ of this speaker, but you can also cycle between the different lighting modes of this light feature, and you can also customize this light feature. But now we're going to go ahead and jump into the sound test. All of these speakers are playing at 75% volume. The XB43 has extra bass turned on, the XG300 has mega bass turned on, and the ULT Field 5 is set to ULT 2.
I wish I could tell you that I want you here with me, but you'll never love me like the way we used to be. Too far from Saturn, lost in the patterns. Where's the stars align so we could be free? Palms are sweaty, knees unsteady, I can't see my head on straight. Heart is heavy, wasn't ready, don't think I can see your face. Now we're just friends, how long till that ends? It feels like forever away. the only way I know to be alone. Too far from heartbreak, can't feel the pain. Ain't it a shame I think I sold my only soul? Palms are sweaty, knees unsteady, I can't see my head on straight. Heart is heavy, wasn't ready, don't think I can see your face. Now it's just friends, how long till that ends? It feels like forever away.
So there is a lot going on here. First off, there's the volume of these speakers. Like I mentioned earlier, the ULT Field 5 just gets overall louder than both the XG300 and XB43. And then there's the clarity of these speakers. One of the main issues with the XG300 is that this speaker always leans towards a warmer sound signature, and I feel that the XB43 sounded more open than the XG300, but the problem with the XB43 is just that it doesn't get as loud as you'd like it to get. But then there's the ULT Field 5, and in general, Sony has been improving the openness, instrument separation, and balance on all of their speaker products. And it's not just their speakers, it's also their headphones and their home theater equipment. And the ULT Field 5 is able to crank out a lot of bass, all while still keeping the mids and vocals well pronounced. Now in this sound test, we were using the ULT Field 5 while it was set to ULT 2, which is going to give you more sound pressure and more bass. But then there's ULT 1, which is going to give you a warmer sound signature with more bass. And then you can also use the speaker with ULT turned off, which is going to be good for extending the battery life of this speaker. But so that you can better hear what I'm talking about, we're going to go ahead and jump into another quick demo, and we're going to demonstrate the different ULT settings.
Don't think I can see your face. Now it's just friends. How long till that ends? It feels like forever away.
So, like you may have just heard, with ULT turned off, this is the lowest setting on the ULT 5. It still sounds good, but this setting is the one that you might want to use if you want to extend the battery life of the speaker. But when in ULT 1, yes, the speaker gets a little louder, but there's going to be more emphasis on the bass. And then there's ULT 2, which is going to increase the sound pressure and bass on the speaker even more. So if you want to get the most out of the speaker, you do want to use it while in ULT 2, and even with ULT 2 turned on, 1, you're still going to get very good battery life. But overall, the ULT Field 5 has a much better clarity and is going to get louder than its predecessors. And thanks to its new sound field optimization, the ULT Field 5 can calibrate itself to give you the best sound depending on the shape of your room, or it can also tell if it's inside or outside. And overall, the ULT Field 5 puts out an impressive amount of bass for its size. But with the ULT Field 5, if you were to use it while it's plugged in, you are going to get a slight performance boost out of it. It's going to get louder and is going to have a little more bass as well. The only thing is, you are going to have to use a 20-watt wall adapter, which is pretty standard now. But finally, let's talk about pairing the speaker up with other speakers. Now, with the ULT Field 5, if you have two of the exact same speakers, then you can wirelessly pair them up and get them to play in left and right stereo mode. But also, the ULT Field 5 is using Sony's Party Connect, so you can pair it up to other Sony speakers that are also using Party Connect, like either an ULT Field 7, and you guys are still sleeping on this speaker, or to the XG500, XG300, XE300, XE200, XB43, XB43, or XB23, or to another ULT Field 5 or ULT Field 3, and you can pair up to 100 speakers together and get them to play in sync. But also, you can pair your smaller Sony speakers to any of Sony's larger box speakers that are also using Party Connect, like either an ULT Tower 10, ULT Tower 9, or to an XV800, XV500, or to an XP700 or XP500. The only unfortunate thing here is that you cannot connect your Sony ULT Field 5 up to an ULT Field 1, and I really think that this is unfortunate because the Sony ULT Field 1 is currently my favorite small portable Bluetooth speaker to use and recommend. But another minor change that I do want to point out here is that with both the ULT Field 5 and the ULT Field 3, you no longer have to use Sony's app to connect your speakers up. There's actually a dedicated connect button on these speakers again, like in the past. So all you have to do is just press the connect button on the ULT Field 5 and on the ULT Field 3, and they'll automatically pair up. Now, no, the ULT Field 5 isn't using Auracast, so if you plan on growing your collection of speakers, you are going to have to stick inside of Sony's ecosystem. But personally, I don't really mind. I think that it's only a small amount of people that plan on getting multiple speakers from multiple brands. But more importantly, I have noticed that Sony's Party Connect is more stable and easier to use compared to Auracast. Because for right now, I have noticed that echoes form very irregularly with my Auracast speakers. But with all that being said, the Sony ULT Field 5 just continues this trend from Sony where they are just fixing and improving everything. From a sound quality standpoint, the ULT Field 5 gets louder than both the XG300 and XB43. But more importantly, it sounds a lot more open and a lot more balanced. And even at those higher volumes and with ULT 2, the ULT Field 5 is still going to give you a lot of playtime on a single charge. I also really like that you can now charge your own devices with its USB-C ports, and from a design standpoint, I like that it comes included with a shoulder strap, and I like the redesigned light feature. It's actually worth using now. I just really hope that people don't sleep on the ULT Field 5 like a lot of people have been sleeping on the Sony ULT Field 7. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.